Hi, welcome back to the farm. My name's Roz, also known as Passion Flower, and you'll find me here each week talking about my farming and creative life. It's really started to feel quite autumnal this week. The days are still quite warm. I think we're going to get to about 29 or 30 today, but the mornings and the evenings are cooling down really quickly, and we're getting a little bit of dew on the ground. And we are also all of a sudden it feels like it is quite dark in the morning, and it's also getting dark much earlier in the evening. So I can feel the days getting shorter already. I know we've got daylight saving for a little bit longer, which I don't particularly like. I would rather that it finishes about on that March long weekend, which it used to do, I think. But now it feels like it drags on forever. And then you have like dark mornings and dark evenings and sort of no time to do anything at all. But it is what it is, and we are enjoying this slight change in the weather. We've had a little bit more rain, but not a ton. So last weekend, Adam helped me to put another brand new hay bale in for the sheep, a nice big one into their hay ring. And we moved it down to the other side of their shelter to kind of give the space where the previous ones have been a bit of a rest. And I raked through all of that and tried to spread a lot of the old hay around to try and see if any of the seeds that are left in the bottom of that will help to germinate the ground and grow some more grass. There were also a couple of little baby bales of hay, like not complete ones, that were baled up in the last batch. So we also unwound those and put those into their paddock as well. So they've been very happy with lots of hay. And there also is starting to be some growth in the grass as well. I think their little area out here that I kind of keep putting them in and out of will end up getting quite green reasonably quickly if this kind of weather continues, and then that'll help to give their main paddock a bit of a rest. As you can see, I've switched around these two framed images, so I'm not getting the reflection of this anymore because there's no glass on this one, and so I think that that is a much better setup rather than moving the chair around. I'm actually recording in the morning today, which is a bit unusual for me, so the lighting might be a little bit different, but I think it's still reasonably good. Last week I showed you the two new colours that I had dyed up on my new brushed merino base, which I'm calling Aura. It is an 8-ply, and the two colours I did were Buttercup, which I've now reskeined, so you can see now where there's those bright yellow but also some light yellow and quite a lot of white in there as well. And the other colour I did was Lichen. And again, this now shows a better representation of how it's going to work up. You can see those dark with the light greens and the sort of dirty green all mixed together a little bit better. So they're my first two new colours. I have just been preparing all of my dye solutions to start dyeing the rest of the new colours. Today my plan is to do 3 new colours: Fireside, River, and Night Sky. So you can kind of, from those, hopefully envisage the kind of colourways that I'm going for. So I've got a whole lot of my dyes all prepared and ready to go. And as soon as I've finished recording here, I will be going and having a bit of a play with that, which will be quite fun. So next week, I'll be able to share with you quite a lot of new colorways. I might even get a couple more done. This being a long weekend and I have the Friday off as well as the Monday means that I'm going to be quite intensively doing a lot of work in these next few days so that I'll be ready for the Kind and All About Fibre and Yarn market at the end of this month. I think it's March the 22nd. So these next few days I have put aside specifically to just do a whole lot of work, a whole lot of new dyeing, a whole lot of the admin stuff, labeling and all of that kind of thing so that I am prepared. First to what I'm wearing this week, this is the yellow brick rodeo top. I've made 2 of these and I plan to use this color work pattern again, I think, on some other tops. It's a really easy motif, and it's a great use of a beautiful single skein of yarn on the top of a jumper, and then you can just go in and use a solid for the rest. Honestly, today I'm not going to continue to wear this while I'm over here in the shed because I'm going to be dyeing yarn. I wear grotty t-shirts because I tend to make a bit of a mess. So, but if I was going out anywhere today, this would be the perfect top for an autumnal day. First, I have a finished object to show you, but it's something that I finished in January. This is the secret test knit that I was doing for Tess from Fluff and Nonsense, and this is part of the Bendigo project, which was launched last week. These are the Mail Clad Princess socks, and I do have two. I just haven't put them both onto a blocker, so I thought I'd just show you one. So it's this really beautiful chain mail pattern, which is a twisted stitch pattern. It's not a cable, it's just a twisted stitch. So it runs all around the leg, and then it just goes down the top of the foot, and then the bottom of the foot here is reverse stockinette. So it is smooth on the inside of your foot, hence princess, like Princess and the Pea. And it has a modified Eye of Partridge heel, and it was knit from the toe up. No, and it was knit from the cuff down, which is not my normal way of doing socks, which is kind of why I like to test knit socks this way that are cuff down rather than toe up, because I literally have to read every single piece of the instruction in order to understand how to do the heel, how to do the toe, all of that stuff. It is because it's very foreign to me. So I don't assume anything. I just completely follow the pattern. I did also test knit her mail clad vest pattern, which had the same stitch motif in it. So I was quite familiar with that part of the pattern before I started. It is really easy. I mean, it looks quite complicated, but it is really easy to do. If you choose to buy the pattern, which I highly recommend that you do, my suggestion is that you just practice that stitch pattern first. Just make yourself a little sample, cast on a little bit, and then try working these stitches first and figuring out the best way for you to do it before you continue on, and then you'll kind of understand how it's supposed to look as well, and then you can quickly catch any mistakes if you make them. I really enjoyed the stitch pattern. I feel it was a good way for me to sort of keep myself motivated. It was like, one more repeat, and there were only like 8 rows. So it's not a ton of knitting all at one time if you just want to like do it in little tiny blocks, but it also is quite addictive because you want to see that pattern grow. And you also then don't have to count rows so much as count repeats, and make sure that you end up with the same number of repeats on both socks. I knit this out of my own yarn. So this is Lattice Sock in the Olive Colourway, and I think that the pattern comes up actually really nicely in this slightly tonal color. So it's not a solid color. You can see little pops and changes, but I think if you did it in a variegated or speckled, you'll probably lose that really clear stitch definition. So I do suggest that you use a solid or a semi-solid tonal color to make these socks. So these are the Mail Clad Princess socks that are part of the Bendigo project for this year. In terms of whips, I've only worked actively on 2 things this week. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing. So I've made quite a bit of progress, but then the interest level in terms of what I'm working on is not as high potentially. But I'll just talk about what I've done, and you can make your own judgment, I guess. First, to the crochet squares that I was working on last week. I now have, I'm just going to grab them here. I now have 12, I think. And I'm working on my 13th. And I've got this much left of that big ball that I showed you last week. I've made a decision. I am not going to buy any more yarn. I laid these out just before And I think if I can get another 3, so the one I'm working on plus another 2 out of this, and I've got a couple of little scrappy bits of balls in the house as well, I should be able to get another 3 total. That will make something large enough for a cat blanket. And I talked about this last week, that Quinn, my boy cat especially, has been quite in love with this. And I kind of tested the theory last night. So I was working on my Evina, which I'll show you in a sec, and he really wanted to knead into it. And it was driving me nuts because I've got basically the whole cardigan now, and he wanted to sit on it, and it makes it really hard to work on, and it pulls on the needles and all of that. So I laid a few of these out on my lap, and he immediately moved, kneaded into those. I did the full on making biscuits, and then sat down and was super comfortable, and then I could go back to my other knitting. So I think that this is going to make a good size that I can either like throw over my lap, throw over something next to me, put kind of even over the top of my knitting and have the knitting underneath, as a cat kneading into blanket. So what I'll do is, as I said, finish those squares and then just grab something else out of my stash that I can join them together with. Depending on how much of this I have left, I might be able to use this to join as well. And hopefully it will be a barrier between the cats, my legs, and also my knitting or crochet while I'm sitting on the couch, because he really did enjoy getting his claws into this yarn, and I think it's kind of like into the holes as well. So yeah, I'm not going to buy any more for this project, but that's not to say that I might not end up grabbing some other kind of yarn to do another crochet project at some point in the near future, because I'm liking having the difference between the different crafts and the way that it moves my hands around. Because speaking of hands and getting sore, I have noticed the last little bit going back to work that using the mouse has made my hands sore, and then I'm not as keen to be doing knitting, and also working on the Evina in its current state is hurting my hands, so I'm not able to do all that much. But I have got an ergonomic mouse for at work now, which has made a difference. And I'm only going to be able to do small portions on the Evina all at once, because I'm literally holding the whole weight of the cardigan as I'm working on it. Let me show you. So it's basically complete, but it's still a long way from being complete, because, as I said, this next bit's going to take me quite a long time. So the arms are completely finished. The raglan decreases are finished, and I have picked up the button band all the way around, and I've started on the double knit button band. So I'm knitting, so that's the width of the button band there. And so every time I'm knitting on it, I'm basically holding the whole weight of the cardigan as I'm doing the button band. I've got 2 buttonholes left to do, and then it should be reasonably mindless in terms of just double knitting all the way around the rest of it. I have also marked where I need to then attach the buttons. So as I get to these and create the button band, I will stick these markers back on at that point, so that I know where to insert the buttons and don't have to do some kind of weird setting up later on. I can just literally sew in where these markers are. I've never done a double knit button band before. This carding has been so many new techniques for me, from the different crochet squares and stitch pattern, which I've never done, to the construction of the actual cardigan itself, to the with the sleeves attached in as tubes, and now the double knit button band. I'm really enjoying all of that stuff, but this double knit button band is going to take me a really long time, I think. But I think it's looking quite nice. There, can you see it there? Yeah. So it's starting to look more like, I can kind of hold it in a spot that makes sense. It's starting to look more like an actual garment now. I have tried it on and I think the sleeves are going to come down probably to about there on me, which I'm actually quite happy with. It's going to be a nice cozy winter thing. I'm not going to be wearing it on warm days and wanting to push the sleeves up, I don't think. I think it will be just for when it's actually quite cold. So that is perfect. I would love to have it finished by next week, but I honestly don't know going to happen given all of this that I have to do. I just don't know how long that's going to take. And I'm hoping that I can get it done with just what I have left of my fourth ball. But again, I don't know that that's going to be possible either. I might have to break into a fifth. My next thing will be what buttons I'm going to use. I'm looking over here because I have my button box. Um, and I've got a couple of possibilities. So I might show you those now. And please leave your preference suggestions below. I might also post this on Instagram once I've finished the whole cardigan because I'm not going to make the decision until that's done. But I have a few different options that I really like. I've got, see, I'm just going to get a few of them out. So I'm going to use 5 buttons and okay. So I've got these little flower ones, which kind of replicate that motif in the crochet. I have these really pretty shiny ones that have little flowers on again, which kind of replicate, I can't say that word, replicate the flowers on the crochet. Or I have some plain shiny green ones. Or, and these are probably going to be too big, but if I decide to just close it up and never open the cardigan, they're not really a set, but I have these really beautiful covered buttons that were made by Becca from White Rabbit Handmade, and they're all flowers, but they are all different flowers. So I still don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to wait until the entire cardigan is finished, but they're in my head as the many options that I have. I think one of those will work. I don't think I'm going to have to go buy new, and I've got 5 of each of those, and they're a good size. The buttonhole is a reasonable size, but it wouldn't fit these large ones. So that would only be if I decide to have it as a sewn up closed cardigan, have these as decorative. So I'm excited to continue to work on this. I feel like I'm going to have it done by my first market at the end of the month. Even if it's not blocked, I should at least have it finished, and hopefully have chosen buttons and have them put on as well. As I said, I'm going to be working quite a lot over here, getting a lot of dyeing and everything like that done this weekend. So I'm not sure how much actual knitting time I will end up with, but I am sure that I will carve out plenty of time for that as well. Well, that's it for another week. Thanks for spending some time with me. If you're enjoying these videos, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I look forward to seeing you next week on the farm. Bye.